Hello everybody. How's everybody today? So today we are going to be looking at the Reichert 7 daily exercises for flute, opus 5. And these are, I think, one of the best books for developing technique, consistency of sound, even sound up and down all the registers, flexibility, and they're a really good sort of daily workout, as they suggest, daily exercises. And I'm just going to give you some tips on how to get the most out of them, because if you just look at the music, it can just look like a lot of notes, and to play them through, it does a certain amount, but it doesn't necessarily help you improve that much if you don't practice it with real care to all the elements involved. So to that end, let's start with number 1. And this one I think is really perfect for getting a nice even sound, really good legato, and it covers a good 2 octaves range. And you're also working with a basic scale. So the first point is that in my edition, at least, it's written in 6/8, but it's also got the option of being in 2/4. So we need to practice making a sort of difference between the two. So when we have 6/8, we're thinking 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6. So we're in duplets with the semiquavers. And in 2/4, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we think more in triplets. So we need to show that difference as we play. And to show that difference, we put the stress in a different place and we group the notes slightly differently. So let's just try number 1, the C major one, and let's do it in 6/8. And for me, I like to use this kind of idea with the shaping of notes at the top there. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So coming away from the first note and then developing through to the next big note. So to get a sense of where those big notes are, in that first one we've got C, then the next beat is E, G, and then top C, and then A, B, and then low C. So those are that's the skeleton of that exercise. So that's where you want to sort of keep phrasing to. And the very top one will be up the top C and the A there. Okay. So very slowly you'd want to show the first note and coming away. So with the lips it would be ah. So down, up, up. And then as you go through the next 3 notes, you gradually bring the air back down again. So you have a 3-note pickup there and a 3-note sort of release as well. So at the beginning, so it will be. If you do it very slowly like that, that's a good thing to practice. So let's just try doing it at that speed with the release of the notes and then using the next 3 notes as a pickup to the next big note. Let's do it all the way through that first one. Okay, and at the end there, I think it's harder but nicer if you can make the top note a little softer, because the low C is the first note of that next bar, and that's all just a chord of C major. So if it could just come away from the bottom. So you need to make sure that you lift the air a little bit more than usual if it was all the same dynamic, because it's going to be a bit softer as well. Keep lifting and make sure the airspeed increases as well. So when we speed that up, it's good to think of that whole line. Somebody asked about how do you play long phrases and how do you make long phrases speak. Well, this is a good way to practice that, because it's such a long way to go. So you've got to think about how you're releasing your air as well. So just keep flowing the air out in a very gradual release, but building up the phrase each time so that we have that going up to the top. Okay, so let's just try that, and then I'm going to give you an exercise to do if you have a space on your wall. And I'll just talk you through it to practice in conjunction with this number one. Okay, so let's try thinking of all the way to that top C. Okay, and it should, at that speed, it should be possible to do that in one breath. If you're finding that a little difficult, doesn't matter, you can take a breath, but ideally that should be in one breath, and it's a good exercise to train your breathing. So now if we think of it, that was in the duplets. Now in the triplets, we can still use the pickup, but there's a slight difference in the stress. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So there's a little bit on the 1 and the 4, and then you develop through 4, 5, 6 to the next one. So we have something like it's another way to practice. And then you can practice double tonguing and triple tonguing, having separated those groups as well. But we won't do that today. So that's one. So let's just try that with the triplets all the way through that first one. Good. And you might find one easier than the other, and it's a good thing to do both because it helps your brain sort of clock in a little bit more, because you have to start thinking of how you're grouping your notes. Okay, so the next thing I would do with that one, just so you have this nice big glorious sound or small glorious sound, it's important to think of how you're poised as well. And so I'm sitting down at the moment, and I think it's very easy to get a little bit sort of lethargic in your practice when you're constantly sitting down. So the reason that I've changed the camera angle actually as well is so that we can stand up. So if you have a space on a wall and you can bring your stand there, or you can play that one from memory, go over to the wall and stand against it so that your shoulder blades are in contact with the wall, your feet are quite close, and your lower back bum area is in contact with the wall, but not your head. So your head, there's a slight gap there, and the back, the mid back will be not against the wall. Okay, and then once you're there, just send the knees forward and allow yourself to slide down the wall a little bit. And that is really good for helping to release in the stomach area. So you're not having to tighten the stomach. It can be really fully released, which will give you a bigger breathing capacity. Your ribs can move better, and you will feel more grounded. Your knees won't be locked at all. And you'll feel that ground to help you have your full height as well. So let's try that together. And if I play some wrong notes, I apologize. Standing here, and then you just slide down. You feel the contact here and here. And then let's try F major. Okay, so did anybody notice any difference in how it sounded when you played with your knees slightly bent against the wall, feeling the contact of the wall as your support, feeling the ground as your support, and feeling your length of your spine? Did anybody notice a difference in their sound, their breathing? Let me know in the chats if that made any difference, or if you try it later, let me know in the comments if that helps you. For me personally, it just opens up the sound immediately, and it also, the breathing is not an issue at all. So when I'm sat down and I'm not thinking about posture, it can be a struggle with breathing. So it's always good to get that feedback from the wall and have something a little bit more uplifting in the sound as well. So that's number one. I'll leave that one with you. We've got 7 to get through, so I'm just going to sort of do trying to do all of them. Now, so if we change key, we'll go into F major for number 2. And number 2 looks like this one. This is basically tonic and dominant sequences, dominant 7. So it's a good way of sort of covering all the keys once you play all through, and you get familiar with new notes. You also develop phrases as well here. And it's another excellent one for legato. So in my edition, and it does vary with editions, I think, is the position of the bar line. And for me, that changes how we phrase. So here we can see ba-da-da-dee-da, and then the B falls on the beat, the first beat here. And in some editions, the bar line starts here, and then the next one starts on the next note there. So da 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 dee da da dee da 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 dee da da dee da. So for me, it has a different stress when the bar line moves, but doesn't mean we have to be limited to our edition. We can just change it. So we'll practice it in this way first, where we have the bar line after a beat. So that means that we're aiming each time for the 5th note. So sorry if we're in F major. So we're always moving on to that 5th note, and then the notes in between release from there. way to practice it. So let's do that whole F major one. If you have the music, aiming for the 5th note. So when it goes over the top. Okay, so that's one way to practice. Now let's try the other way so that we have a more solid low note each time, not the higher one. So it'll be more. So you come away over those 5 notes. Da 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 dee da da dee da ya da da dee da da dee da yum. Okay, so let's try it that way, developing the bass notes this time. Good, so that's two ways to practice that. And let's do the minor of that one, which is D minor. So the next system down. And in each key we have different intonation issues. And in D minor, unfortunately, we have C sharps. And as everybody knows, C sharp can be a bit of a dodgy note, especially in terms of the pitch and the color of the sound. So try not to allow that to happen on a C sharp. You need to make sure that your C sharp has enough color in it and that you're blowing low enough so that it doesn't go sharp and out of tune with the harmonics there. So just be careful of the C sharps. So, but let's now practice it with the first way. Da 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 dee da 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 dee 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 dum. Ready? 1. Good. Okay, so that's number 2. Moving on to number 3, which looks like this. Da dee da 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 dee da da dee da da dee. We have the thing of 6, 8, and 2, 4 again. So we have duplets and triplets. So we can practice that. But something else that I'd like to do for this one is singing and playing at the same time as well, just to get the whole airstream constant and opening up the sound. So next key is B flat major. So let's do that one. It starts on a lower B flat there. And let's just sing and play that through. Good. Now, with the 6/8/1, if you want to show da dee da 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 dee da da dee da da dee, that will help show the meter. If you think of 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. So we have a little bit of. Okay, so we have. So you just subtly show that in the legato. So you don't have to articulate it or do violent pushes from the abdominals, but see if you can just show that sort of structure there. So it's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, like that. Okay, so let's try that way. Good. Now with the triplets, we show a little stress on each triplet. Da dee da 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 dee da da dee da da dee. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so it'll be. And you see the character changes a little bit. It gets a little bit more dancey and waltz-like because of the 3 element there. So let's try that. So triplets. 1. Now let's go back to duplets for the G minor. Good, and with that one there's a lot of accidentals, so if you've never played those before, just do that quite slowly and get used to how the accidentals change there. We've got quite a few raised notes. So have a look at that in your own time. Moving on to number 4, this is one of my favorite ones. I remember playing the Vidor Suite first movement to Emmanuel Pahu, and he recommended practicing this for intervals, getting the ease of lifting the notes so that they don't pop out. So you see with these ones, there's a lot of rise and fall. Da, da, dee, da, 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 dee, da, 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 da. So try and make sure that the top note, because it doesn't come on a main beat, that it doesn't pop out. So this would be a bad example for E flat major. So remember that higher notes, you don't want to blow them harder, but they do need a faster airspeed. So it's just getting away from the thought of having to blow harder for high notes. So we want to lift the air up and think maybe a little bit softer so that it doesn't come out louder. So the skeleton for this one will just be a E flat major arpeggio. We've got E flat, etc. So those are your main anchor points to lock onto, and use a more generous sound on them, and that means you can come away from the weaker notes. We've also got to build the phrase again towards the middle of this, and then it comes away at the end. So let's just try that, holding the main notes slightly longer with a nice rich sound and being slightly lighter on all the other notes. Okay, let's try that. So I'll just do a couple of bars. So just establish that sound on the, make a little fermata on each main note. Let's try that. Okay, now let's just take away the pause and just feel that established sound on each note, on each main note of the skeleton, and lifting for the other notes. Good. Now let's do C minor, but now with a different color. So E flat major, I was thinking of that UNESCO cantabile sound. Something a bit warm and open. C minor, maybe something a little bit more spooky or softer sound. Or you might go for something a little harsher. But whatever you choose, make sure it's different to your E flat major sound. And that will be a way to make these more interesting as well, is to constantly change the sound. Okay, so let's just try it all the way through with your different color. Okay, and if you're using a different color, think of your airspeed at all times as well, because it's very easy with a soft sound to lose all your airspeed. So make sure that you've got that driving through as well. So sometimes just sing and play it to get that airspeed back. That will help that one as well. Let me just check if I've got everything. Yes, okay. Now, one person also asked about playing quickly and softly and not letting the sound be compromised. So you can practice this one softly and quickly, but first do it all on a poo attack and make sure your embouchure is right for each note. Okay, so if we go back to E flat major, I'll just do a couple of bars. Won't do the whole thing, but just all on a, like this. Very quick release of air and very light. And make sure that each note speaks cleanly. Okay, and then when you join that up in the legato, you remember where your lips have been. So it's muscle memory. And when you want to make your fingers go faster, do not allow that to influence anything that you've just done when you did it with that careful embouchure. So don't allow the flute to roll around. Don't get the hands grasping your flute because it's quicker. Keep your fingers light. And a good way to practice it in stages is to do 1/2 of the bar slowly and 1/2 of the bar double speed. Okay, so let's do it softly with really careful embouchure, half speed and then double speed. So I'll show you 1 bar. Okay, so does that make sense? 1/2 of the bar slow, 1/2 of the bar fast. Okay, so yada dee da da dee da da yada dee da da dee dee dum, and then back to 1/2. Let's try that. Okay, now let's switch that around. So yada dee da da dee. No, yada dee da da dee 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 yada dee da 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 da. Half of the bar fast, half of the bar slow. Like that. Okay, so let's try that. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Okay, so you can practice in that way as well, and it's a very easy way for the brain to sort of, okay, this is half, this is double. It's not, but it's then it works your fingers on different notes quickly and not everything at once. So it sort of breaks that down a little bit. Or you could do 1 beat fast, 1 beat slow, 1 beat fast. You can mix it up depending on your needs. So that's how I would practice, playing quickly and quietly. Firstly, form your embouchure, get the sound right. Secondly, make it fast in half the bar and then slow in half the bar, and then put it all together once you switched it back around as well. So that's one way. Number 5 is an excellent one. I think we'll actually stop on number 5, do number 5. Number 6 and 7 are quite self-explanatory there. 6 is a chromatic scale, tongued, and 7 uses, that's good for triple tonguing. But number 5 is really good to practice because it's going from note, you're practicing an octave with arpeggios, and we want to show the skeleton again, so we need to make notes softer. So if we look at A flat major, the skeleton there, so it's this one. Yeah. So the skeleton that we have for this one is so that's the general skeleton for the A flat major. So we don't want the top note to be loud, and the other 2 notes of each triplet also want to be softer. So as we go, we want to make sure that the top note is softer each time. So let's practice that. So 1 da da dee da dee ya da dee ya da dee ya da da dee ya da dee ya. Let's try that together. 1, 2. Good, so that is really good practice slowly as well, because you have to really maintain the airspeed as well. Some of the trickier elements of doing that legato is the octave jumps down. For example, going down to that E flat without pushing it. So practice doing all of those little jumps down. For example, all of those. So going from your high note to your lower note, finding where the angles need to go. And that will just smooth out the corners a little bit to make it all really smooth. And then also practice that in the minor. Again, there's quite a few accidental changes in that one, so do that slowly. And the higher you go, so the next one in F minor goes quite high, and to get those high notes very soft is quite a challenge. So practice the lower ones first and warm up a little bit on those before you try to tackle the higher ones. But if you make sure that you're always doing them softly, you're really pushing yourself to practice really good embouchure training. So yeah, that's number 5. Number 6 and 7, like I said, they're self-explanatory. There's not too much to say about them. I think he kind of ran out of inspiration at that point. But number 1 to 5 are really good. And I thoroughly recommend doing all of those on a daily basis, or mixing it up with Taffanel and Gobert, or whatever technique book that you use. I think this one is a great one to do. And also combining that with doing it against a wall, so that you're thinking of your breathing and your posture at the same time. So I hope that gives you some ideas. Let me know how you get on with it. Tomorrow we are looking at the Donjon Etude, Elegy Etude. So that's number 1. Just some practice ideas for that, and also how to do singing and playing, a more sort of full video on that, which should help. Okay, so that's tomorrow, and I'll look forward to seeing you then.